life is about experiences, like whether it being a mother or being a wife or being, like the experiences that you go through are what teaches you what you're willing to tolerate or what you're willing to do next or what you want next or what you desire for your life. You can't make decisions from nothing, only from what you believe or what beliefs have been implanted into you.
You are here. Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast. This is the show where we uncover why you are truly here and, more importantly, how to make it your reality. My father, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And research further shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are 2.4 times more likely to feel fulfilled. Each week, I sit down with extraordinary guests, entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders who are boldly living their why. We dive deep into their journeys, the struggles they've overcome, their breakthroughs, and the lessons that can help you do the same. I am your beautiful host, Charcee Wilborn, and we're about to explore the mindsets, tools, and strategies to help you live a life with purpose, passion, and legacy. Are you ready? Let's go and dive into the episode. And we are back. Welcome to another great episode of the Purpose Finder podcast, where our mission is simple: to help you find and uncover your purpose in life and to live it overflowing with three things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. Yes, deep down, we all crave belonging. No one wants to feel unfulfilled, and we are all searching, asking that big question: why in the world am I here? Well, let your search end right now here on the Purpose Finder podcast. I'm your host, Charcee Wilborn, and today I have the great honor, pleasure, privilege of sitting down with a beautiful soul who is not only thinking about purpose, she doesn't only talk about it, she doesn't only teach her clients about it as a coach, but she is living it out boldly. We are going to explore her stories, we're going to explore her journey and the lessons she have learned while pursuing her purpose. Help me welcome Miss Charcee Starks of the House and the Woods. Charcee, it is a pleasure to have you here. I have to start because my nose is sweating, my underarms are sweating. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my coaches in life. We've been coaching now for quite a few years. And I am doing a lot of things that I'm doing right now because of her guidance, because of her support, because of her help. And yeah, she's my coach. I thought I would share with the world the lady that has been just helping me just be great, picking me up when I need to be picked up, listening to me, telling me, no, that is not a good idea, or that's a great idea. Let's make it happen. And she's my coach because I observed for a while what she had been doing, how she had been moving and creating the life that she wanted. And I'm like, tell me how you did that. I'll pay you if you need me to. So Charcee, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. I'm not going to read a bio. They're not here to listen to me, but they do want to hear your heart. And so please, will you share who you are, where you're from, the things you're doing in the world, all that good stuff?
Yes. So thank you. I love you. So I am from Southern California mostly, but traveled a lot as a kid and split between Ohio and California because my parents were not together. But I currently live in Columbus, Ohio. And I am a coach. I've been in the personal development industry for maybe 10, 12 years now, as a student, and then, training to be a coach, certification upon certification, and really following people in the industry that I trusted and believed and felt that were authentic. And yeah, I facilitate at retreats and in front of rooms. I coach one-on-one. I am, currently revamping how I show up in the world. So I'm revamping my website, my programs, the things that I want to do and how I want to show up and make impact. Because, I am not the same person I was yesterday. It's a big, it's like my big mantra is like, you're not the same person you were yesterday. And so I have to really honor the person I am today. And that's what I try to do every single day.
I know one of the things that you and I go back and forth on, because I always forget what it means. So the name of your company is The House in the Woods. That's the
Correct.
name of your company, The House and the Woods. And I'm always like, what does that mean again and why? But give us the significance of what that means and why you named your company that.
Perfect. Yeah. So I grew up believing that there was the right way to live, right? And I think that we all do to a certain extent. We're taught, you go to college and you find the husband and you get married and you buy the house with the white picket fence and you have the kids, the boy first and then the girl, and then you have the dog and you live happily ever after. And there's just this like concept of what like a successful life should look like. And very young, I realized like that's not what I want at all, not even a little bit, right? And I have this book, like when I was in the fourth grade, I wrote my life story. And the last page in the book, I just recently saw it. It's hilarious. And I can't draw, but there's a picture of me that I drew. And um, the end of the book says, and I will live alone in a house and I will take care of my parents. I will be a lawyer and I will live happily ever after. Right? Like no children, no husband, no, like just my career, my family, my home. And my mom, I remember the conversation. She was like, well, what about your kids? And what about your husband? And I was like, yeah, I don't want that. I want to be the successful lawyer and I want to, like, I already had like this idea. And I wasn't like I wasn't a timid kid. Like I was very outspoken, very opinionated. I mean, I haven't changed. I'm still the same. Um, but so the idea of my company was like, the house is the thing that we believe we're supposed to have, or we believe, or we think that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get the college degree. We're supposed to, have the career. We're supposed to, impress our parents, and then, you know, and then we'll be happy. But like, if those aren't your belief systems and those aren't your values, and that's not what you actually want, you won't be happy. And then it doesn't feel like success. And then you're living in this house with this dog and these kids that you didn't want and this husband you didn't want, and you're not happy, you know? And so the idea of like really recognizing, where are you living? Like, how are you shackled to this house that is limiting, right? Four walls and a ceiling is limiting, right? If you think of the house as a limiting belief system or a limiting life or a limiting thought, and then you think, if I can just get across this field and run in these woods, it's vast and it's scary and it's unknown and it's big, but it's yours, right? And if you want to build a cabin, you build it. And if you want to go down this path, you go down it. And you literally, and you have what's beautiful is like, I know your stuff, and you have a retreat called Pave the Path, literally paving the path of your life and building your life by design so that it feels like you, it's aligned to you. It's every day feels like success because you're building it the way that you want it. Every day doesn't feel good. Every day doesn't, not that there's not scary moments or unknown moments or fearful moments, but there is this complete knowing and groundedness in, I am choosing this life so I can make this life happen. Right. And I don't think we tap in enough when we're doing the everyday default life to know, like, if we actually are happy. Like, how often do you stop and ask yourself, like, is this what I want today? Is this what I actually want? And I really want to build, I want my company to build that in people. This idea of like, I get to reorganize my life if it's not fitting for me. And I get to change things.
I love that. And as much as I still can conceptualize calling a company The House in the Woods, it's still fitting for who I struggle with or struggled with, and who a lot of other people are struggling with. So imagine coming from a home and a house where your parents are already great people and they expect, there's these expectations that you should be great, you should be successful, and what that should look like. So I
Absolutely.
remember when I was young wanting to be a cosmetologist. And my dad was like, no, you may love to do it for a hobby, do it for fun. But he was like, no, daughter of mine. And so, of course, I put that passion down. I did some other stuff that, you know, not so much of what he wanted, but some stuff that I also had passion about. But cosmetology, he was like, there's more to life than that for him in his mind. So I think about, but then I also think about the expectations that other people put upon myself and my brother because we were Dr. Miles Monroe's children. But then there is the woods where I get to build my own legacy. I don't get to be a pastor. I don't want to be a pastor because a lot of people would have me stick to that house of pastoring because he pastored. But I get to be whoever I want to be in this world. And one of the things that has happened to me since I met you was like one of the things you said to me, and I will never forget it. I will always say it. I would ask you questions and I'm like, do you think? And you was like, you're the creator of your creation. And I'm like, just that simple. Yes. And
Yes.
so I think about if I want to do it, I just do it. If it fails, boom. If it doesn't
Learn
work, then I
something.
know, okay, fine, we won't do that again. Or we'll adjust and assess and redo it again. But I can do whatever. And you literally would say to me, no matter what I ask you, you're the creator of your creation. And I think a lot of people struggle with being tied to the house, being tied to what they think. And one of the things you said was impressing other people, whether it's your parents, whether it's society. You know, society says the very thing you said, you should have a husband, you should, and very, very right. When you have kids, have the boy first, then the daughter. So here I am becoming a mother. I'm pregnant with my first child. And what do I want? A
A boy.
boy. What do I get? A girl. So, and then we're pregnant again. And what are we going to have? Another girl.
Right.
But according to society, if you don't have a boy, then you haven't made your husband a king and he's not going to feel good. And every man wants to have a son. But that's just not the way that it was designed for me.
Right. And
That
it's so, this is such a good point because they also say that without a son, you don't leave a legacy, right?
that is so not true.
Absolutely not.
Because if that was the case, then I should feel some type of way.
Right. And
Because
you are your
I'm my
father's
father's first
legacy.
child. Let me tell you, first child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are your father's legacy, and your first has already created. I mean, she is legacy. She is like yours. And I'm my parents, and so this idea, like, sure, if we have no sons, then his name doesn't pass on and all of those things, but it doesn't stop DNA. It doesn't stop, like, true legacy is the impact that, I mean, in my opinion, true legacy is the impact that we make while we're here. That's legacy. And, you know, we as women have, ultimately always found a way to create impact as mothers, as daughters, as activists, as, coaches, as teachers. I mean, teachers are majority women, and those are the people that raise your children 8 hours a day when you leave them there. So yeah, legacy is a very interesting word, especially dealing with with the idea that you're supposed to do it. You know what it is? It's that everyone is trying to do it the right way, right? I don't want to put up this podcast if it's not right. I don't want to do this if it's not right. How do I do this webinar the right way? How do I build this business the right way? How am I, I want to be a good mom. I want to do it right. I want to raise my kids right. And it's just like, who defines right? Who defines right? At the end of the day, like, I grew up in a house. My mom was a single mom. My dad was in my life, but he didn't live in our home with us. And we didn't have a lot. We came from nothing. We stood in line for groceries. There were times definitely when I know my mother ate the food we left on our plates. Like, we just didn't have a lot. We never knew. I never knew we were
Wow.
poor.
Now, when did you realize that you were? Like, what's now making you say, now we were, but then I didn't know?
I mean, my mom was really big about like making life fun. You know, if all we had was like glue and construction paper and scissors, we'd have projects on the weekends to do. We had a backyard. So, my dad, when he would come in town and visit, he would do things. He like built us this like really cool, we had this huge tree and he put a tire swing on it and he put a temporary pool up in the summer times. And he like they just created this world where like we didn't know we were missing out on anything,
Mm.
standing in line for food and getting food was like the whole neighborhood did it. Like
Hmm.
everyone did it. So no one knew like, oh, you have more than me or we have less. Like you'd go stand in line for food on Saturday at the school or whatever, and like your best friends would be there. So, while our parents were
Outing.
standing.
That's an outing. Oh, I get to see
Right. Yeah,
Clara.
we're
Why
playing.
not?
And then we'd get this huge tub of peanut butter and it said peanut butter on it. I just had this conversation with my mom. It was like this huge like container of peanut butter and it didn't have a scan, a barcode, a label, nothing. It just said peanut butter in black on a white container. And every time we got that container of peanut butter, without a doubt, my mother would make us peanut butter cookies. So there was like this excitement going to stand in line to see if we got the peanut butter, right? Because then we'd get to make peanut butter cookies. So everything was made like as probably as stressful as it was for her or as hard as it was for her, she made our life successful. Like she made it fun and fulfilling and then when my dad would come in, he would just add on to that. And while there was problems and tension and all of that, like divorced and separating parents go through, the key factor was to make sure the kids are having a good life, right? And so we didn't know we were poor. Like I started to realize probably later in life because you know, my mom used words like not like we can't afford that, but she would say I can't justify that purchase. Like, oh, I want to go, mommy, can we please buy this toy? And she's, well, we can't justify that purchase right now.
So
Not
she
we
never
can't.
said, no, you can't have it. She just said, we can justify it.
Correct.
Mm,
Right. So it wasn't like we're poor. She never even said like we can't afford it.
right. We just can't
Right.
justify it.
Correct.
So you're even now you're still comparing your poverty then to a particular standard of whether it's society standard or maybe the kids you see growing up now. Is that the standard or is that the measure of which you're saying, okay, so when I was growing up, we was poor? Because some kids are poor and they know it. They
Correct.
know it, they feel it, they go without, they don't have the excitement, they don't have the fun. And then like yourself, some kids grow up and they're poor, but they tell me that now. Like you're an adult telling me that.
Hmm.
But are you but is that you measuring up to something externally, of course?
I mean, yeah, income, right? Like income, my parents' income, and I didn't know we went without, but we went without. You know, like we didn't have new all the time. We were thrift store shoppers. I'm still a thrift store shopper, right? Like where I am in life now, I still love going to the thrift store because it was like a thing, like for our family. My dad, his 50th birthday, his request was no one buy him anything new. Everybody thrift store shop. Like it was like a thing. So our whole family went out and thrift store shop. Like it's a, it's kind of nostalgic and fun. And you find like gems in there and it's a thing. But
Mhm.
so it didn't seem odd or weird or different, like to do that. Like my dad loves thrift store shopping to this day. Now it's trendy. My God, like there's a whole rap song about thrift store shopping, right? Like it's a trendy
Funny,
thing.
I've missed this memo. It's one of the things I do not like to do. And it's no shade to anybody, no judgment. It's just, I can't do it. That's just my
Right.
personal thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, like you say, who in the world would know that thrifting would be fun,
Right.
especially back then?
Right.
Especially back then. Now it's a part of the trend. It's a part of, you don't have to be poor to be in thrift. Anyone can thrift. I
Correct.
think there are people who are the opposite of poor, who enjoy thrifting probably more than the poor does.
1000%.
Imagine.
One of my friends, he is really successful in his company, and I would say, he's making multiple six figures a year, and he literally will call me like, "Let's go thrifting." I'm like, "Okay, let's go thrifting." So we were together recently, we went thrift store shopping. Like,
Did you, did you find good finds?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really?
I got some really great pants. I had some
Maybe I'll
they
do it one of these days as for fun. I don't
and they
know.
were brand new, tags on.
I understand that you could find some brand new stuff
Yeah,
in thrifting.
yeah,
And
so
it might just be my narrow mind that when I do think of thrifting, I do think of those that can't afford new. So, because anything in thrift stores is normally affordable, not cheap,
right.
but affordable, inexpensive. So maybe that's my mindset. So I'm like, why would I go there when really and truly there are others that need what they have more than me?
Mhm.
Um, but you just put a whole other spin on that. On that, let's honey, let's go on a date. Let's go
Well, also
thrifting.
the money that they make, right? Like, the money that certain thrift store makes, and I do research, like, I do a lot of local thrift stores versus, like, bigger thrift store. I mean, this
Hmm.
is such a side conversation, but because, like, where the money goes matters
Of course
to
it
me,
does.
right? And so when I do choose to find a lot that help veterans, things that are important to me, women's resource centers are always really good ones to find because the money goes back into, like, shelters with women and children and those kinds of things, which is really important to me. So I really try to, like, spend my money where I know it's going to help people. Spending my money at White House Black Market or at, wherever wherever I
Ma'am,
choose,
don't judge us that shop at the White House Black Market.
which I do. I shop at White House Black Market as well, but it's like, I know it's not going anywhere except into the pockets of the people who own the company, right? Where if I go to a thrift store, then I feel like, it's a little give back. It might not be a huge give back, but it's a little give back. And also, kids grow out of clothes so quickly
This is true.
that,
Because
like,
who cares where it comes from? And
it's like,
having my first child now, I'm real. Like I had this whole idea. I had this whole house concept that when I get my first child, she's gonna have all that I had when I was growing up and some. She's gonna have the
mhm,
best of the best. I'm gonna shop at the best of the stores. If it is a name brand and she's not getting it, and then I have a child and I realize the very thing you bought she didn't even wear because by the time she could wear it, she already grew out of it. And so now she's two, and I'm like, mm-mm. We going right to Ross. We going right to Burlington. We going right to Walmart. We gonna buy this thing. She gonna wear it twice, and then she can't wear it no more.
correct.
Imagine. And now my second child is on the way, and I already have that. She gonna wear hand me downs from my sister because there's no need, because they do grow. They do grow quickly. They do grow fast, and then you get a little older and you get a little wiser, and you get a little smarter and you get a little more intelligent, and you make what I'm going to call better decisions for yourself, for your family.
Well, you didn't experience it before you experienced it. Right? And that's the trick. It's like, life is about experiences, right? And, like, whether it being a mother or being a wife or being, like, the experiences that you go through are what teaches you what you're willing to tolerate or what you're willing to do next or what you want next or what you desire for your life. And you can't make decisions from nothing, right? Only from what you believe or what beliefs have been implanted into you, right?
So as we talk about experiences, and I'm glad you brought that up. Um, if I was talking to someone else and I asked this question, they would say poverty. If I asked them, what are some of the adversities and challenges you've gone through along your life journey, they would probably say we grew up poor. For you, as far as you're concerned, you didn't grow up poor. Like you didn't even know you guys had a fun life. So when you think about what is one thing that you could say was a major challenge for you growing up, whether were young adulting or teenage years, that was a struggle, that was adversity before you get to where you are now, what would you say that is? If it's since it's not poverty.
It's the day my sister died. Absolutely.
Ooh.
Yeah. I
Was
was
she?
16.
You was mhm.
I was 16. She was 29 when she died. So she was like my mentor, she was my rock. She was our whole family's rock. She was 29, extremely successful, owned multiple properties, owned a restaurant, like she was like the opposite of poor. So like she had really helped to pull us out of like that because she graduated from Spelman College. Her husband became a football player. Or was a football player, and she took everything she knew, invested well, like really built their family up, their finances up, really helped build us up. And so she was like my mentor, my rock. Like there were so many moments that like I still pull on now that really like molded the human that I am and how I think and what I think and how freely I think. She was like, don't believe everything you read. Like she was big on like, don't believe everything you read, don't believe everything you hear, like go do the research. And one time she sat me down with a history book and a Bible. She was like, figure out what's true for you. I was like, okay. So I wasn't limited. Like that she was like the beginning of like this opening of like, you are the creator of your
Doors.
creation,
Mm-hmm.
like go build what you want. And like at 29, owning multiple properties, apartment buildings, 2 condos, her home, a restaurant, like she was 29. Literally, she was 29. And because she had done all that at 16 when she died, I was like, oh, she had 3 kids, she had her husband, she had so much. And I was like, well, at least she lived a full life. Like in my 16-year-old brain, 29 seemed like so far ahead. Um, but my world fell apart. Like literally my world fell apart because my mom lost her firstborn and she it took a long time for her to get through that. And I really just, because of who I am and how I operate, no one asked me to, or there's no like a victim story behind it for me, but like it was my responsibility to make sure that our house kept going. And I had a younger sister, and it was really important for me to like be who my sister was to me, and everything I got, I really wanted to impress that upon her, my younger sister. And I'm only a few years older than her. So it was like, she was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like there was a lot of fight and resistance. Um, but she was mine from the moment Fran died. My mom had to grieve the way that she needed to grieve. And a huge thing I talk about, which, I think is like, I talk about identity shifts, like big moments in life that really like shift our identities. And that was one of them for me. I went from being like a kid and this teenager and worrying about like who I'm going to date and da 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 and blah 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 blah, um to like, how am I going to like make sure my sister's happy and healthy, and what do I need to do to get my mom out of her bedroom, and how do I make sure there's enough income coming in this house, like if my mom doesn't go to work, like. So I worked, I worked and I went to school full time, and I went to parent teacher conferences, and I made sure my sister's grades were up, and I pushed to make sure she graduated from high school, and made sure she was hanging out with the right kids and not the wrong ones. And, like all of the things that come with, you know, having a teenage kid as a teenage kid,
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up really fast. I grew up in a moment, and
So you
became,
you mentioned your world falling apart when Fran died. But then you also mentioned now it being this responsibility that you took on to make sure the house kept going. It
yeah,
was you didn't, no one told you you had to, you just knew that you had to you pretty much had to become Fran now that Fran was in there for everyone else. So how did you do that while your world was falling apart? And do you feel that you mentioned mom grieving, how she had to grieve, but did you grieve right away? Was your grief grief delayed and you later grieved. Like, how did you manage to keep the house together, but also keep Charcee together?
Yeah. So good question. Um, I didn't grieve until later. I I went into manager mode and everything had to be managed. I mean, and then really like it started the day she died. I They rolled her body out of her house and I stripped her bed, cleaned up the dishes by her bed, washed her sheets. Like I really just went into manage it. And manager has been the identity that I've stayed in for years, right? It was like the kid in me. It was like if you think of like driving a car, right? Before, it was like the teenager driving. Fran died, and it was like the manager yanked that teenager out of the driver's seat, sat in, and just pedal to the metal. Like, we got to go. Like, we have things to do. And the kid, the 16-year-old who was the person who was driving the car is like now in the back seat of this SUV and we're going. And that version of me, that 16-year-old version of me didn't get to drive very often, because the manager was always, taking over. And so, one of the things that I talk about is going from the house to the woods. That field that you got to run across to get there, that field is a field of grief because you have to lose things. You can't just go to the woods. You have to lose things. The ideas, the beliefs, like who you were, the identity that you were so tied to, you lose all of that to gain everything else, right? To gain everything you want,
Mm.
gain everything you desire.
So that means the possibility of going from the house to the woods. Some people never make it to the woods. They make it outside the house, but they maybe never make it to the woods because by the time they get halfway down this path of grief and having to let go of all the things that they were holding on to in the house for a while, they're like, no, this don't feel good. Let me go back to what I know. Let me go back to what's going to keep me comfortable.
We are more comfortable in the familiar than we ever will be in the
In the
unfamiliar.
unfamiliar. Mm.
And so a
How
lot
did
of
you not turn back? Finish that thought. And so a lot of people.
yeah, I think a lot of people aren't willing to go. The woods are
Mhm.
vast and dark, right? They are the unknown. Paving your own path, picking up a machete and going like, I gotta really take this out. Like I gotta knock it out and build my life. Like most people don't have the grit. And not because it's not in there, but they won't let that version of themselves surface because the version that they know will then be gone. And there's absolute loss in living a life of desire.
Mm.
There's absolute loss.
Mm.
Um,
And how did you continue on the path from the house to your woods that you now create and live in now? How did you not turn around even though the grief was great, the loss was great?
yeah, I mean, I found mentors, to be honest,
Mm.
even young. I found mentors. I had people who really, I didn't know what coaching was back there, but really coached me through a lot of my grief. But I also had the spirit of my sister behind me. I feel like, I really do feel like there was always this um, push to make her proud, and um, and not let her down, and really keep all of my promises to her. And one of the biggest lessons she ever taught me was be a person of your word. Your word is gold, and when you say you're going to do something, do it. And so I've like lived by that, like to my detriment. Like I almost married the wrong person because I gave my word, right? Like to my detriment, I lived by that. And have since in experience, right, been able to change that idea. Like your word is gold, but also with new information, you can make a new decision. And so
Wait, don't say too fast. Make sure we get this. Listeners, are you hearing this? With new information, you can make a new decision. Hey, purpose seekers. If this conversation has you thinking about your purpose, what it is, how to find it, and how to truly live it, then I have something just for you. Introducing the Purpose Finder Formula. And you have the free access to my 20-minute training designed to help you uncover your purpose and to start living it with confidence. No fluff, no guesswork. It's clear, practical, step-by-step guide to finding meaning and gaining clarity and direction. Your purpose is calling. Are you ready to answer? Head over to www.charissamonroe.com/purpose finder formula. Enter your info and I'll send it straight to your inbox. Imagine waking up every day knowing your life has meaning, impact, and joy. That's what awaits you. So don't wait. Grab your free training today. Now, let's get back to the episode.
And this was something that was like huge for me, huge for me in my learning because, and I'm sitting in a room and I'm about to make some really bad decisions, and the coach in that room was like, well, exactly that. With new information, you get to make a new decision. And the new information was so important to consider, right? It was so important to consider, because it was honoring where I was today, not the human who said yes 2 years prior, right? And if you discount everything that happened in those 2 years, that your yes may not still be that same yes from before, right? And so a huge part, I think, of this life, of building a life of desire and living in your purpose and really like being inside of what I consider a life that is successful, is being aligned in your days, like feeling aligned, you know, and and willing to make really hard decisions. And so, I said I'm revamping a lot of what I'm doing right now. I'm also making a big career shift, and changing my whole, like, everything I've been doing for the last 5 years. I'm now saying no to, and shifting how I'm showing up and what I'm doing and who I'm playing with.
How is that? How has that revamping been, or how is that going? I mean, even before we get there, because I hear a lot of what you were saying, and because I also know where you are in life, professionally, personally, like you're at the mountaintop, if you will. And we've talked about some of the things, but even getting there, life isn't always easy. The value isn't always the best. And I hear a lot of like, you're doing this because at the end of the day, it's for even thrifting. Who in the world thinks about I'm only going to show up depending on where the money is going to go? Like your values speak purpose. You want, it's almost like purpose, everything has to be aligned with your values, with your beliefs, your understanding. And I hear purpose in that. I hear purpose in and because as soon as I hear purpose, I think good cause. As soon as I hear purpose, I think for others and not for myself. So before we even transition to the revamping that you're doing with your life, when you do think about purpose and your life having to be aligned with that, what is purpose for you? And when did you figure out that this is my calling and I'm going to run after it?
Good question. I've always been intentional. I didn't know that that's what it was, right? But I've always been a really intentional human, even as a kid. I mean, when I hear the stories of like my little smart mouth attitude, it was always like with intention because I had a goal in mind. And my goal was usually for the benefit of the room or the benefit of the people. And I would argue with my mom to let my sister go out with her friends because my mom wasn't considering that she finished her homework on time 4 times this week and she did this, and I was like this kid who just like always had intention behind. This is why I wanted to be a lawyer, right? I say in 4th grade, I wanted to be a lawyer. I was so ready to argue for the good of the people, always, even as a kid. So for me, for my own belief, I think that my purpose has always been in impacting the life that is an aligned life for the people, right? For myself, but for my family and for m- my clients and for anyone really that I come in contact with. Um, and I really feel like purpose is such a hard thing to people are always like searching for their purpose, right? And that's why I think it's beautiful. Like this is the Purpose Finder podcast, right? Like people are always searching for their purpose and a lot of times don't know where to go to find that purpose. I really believe that it's an internal conversation. I really truly believe like your purpose comes from the inside and exudes outwardly. You don't go and find your purpose. Your purpose is uncovered and discovered from within you. And it is in like noticing like what makes you feel good when you do it. Like what are the things that don't feel like work? What comes naturally to you? What um what could you do every single day for the rest of your life and not and it wouldn't you wouldn't blink an eye at it,
What could
you
you do
know?
without pay? What would you
Like
do without pay?
right. What would you
And
do if you never got paid for it?
I think about pay, and backstage, you and I were talking about, um, and I'll let you talk about this, but you were talking about what it was for you when you finally hit six figures, when you finally got paid for what you were aligned to do. And it wasn't what you thought it was going to be built up to be. Share a little
Right.
bit more about that.
Yeah. So I had a goal when I started my career. I had a goal. Like the one thing I wanted to do was make more than my parents made. My parents never made more than 50K. So 50K was
Together.
a
Together.
um yeah, for a long time together and then they divorced, so even individually they never made more than 50K
Okay.
each. Um and I wanted to go I wanted to go to them and say like I did it. Like the thing that our parents always want for us is for us to do better than they did,
Hmm.
right? And I knew like whatever I do, I want to make more than 50K. But, my sister dying really threw me off of my path. So I had planned on going to college and becoming a lawyer and, all of those things and I didn't. I mean, I still went to college, but I didn't stay that path, right? So when I hit 50K, I remember thinking like I did it. Like I am doing it and it's not a lot of money. Like it wasn't a lot of money that many years later. 50K when my parents were coming up was a little bit more than it was when I hit it. And so my next goal was to double it. Like I want to hit six figures. Like I want to be a six-figure income earner. And when I hit it, I had this idea that, like, once I did that, I would feel so successful, like, I would just be over the moon with, like, myself and my success and how far I'd come and all of these things, and I was proud of myself. I was extremely proud of myself, but it didn't feel the way that I thought it was going to feel. It wasn't really aligned, right? It was good, it was great, like, I'm working in a career that I like, it was a combination of, like, my day job and my business that had come together and made me make six figures, um, but fulfilling. It wasn't fulfilling, like, making 100K didn't mean anything if I woke up every day and didn't wanna do what I was doing.
Hmm.
Like that, right? So and I'm big on, like, once you realize, like, this isn't doing it for me, like, what are you willing to do to change it? I stayed with the company, but I shifted my role there, right? So I went from what I was doing there, and I really had a conversation with the CEO, and I was like, this isn't aligned for me. I know that I can do more. I know that I can give more. I can make a more impact in your company. Here's what I think I can do, and give me a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So making that money, and then at that time, I wasn't even asking for a raise. I was asking for a shift in position,
Mm.
right? Because I wanted to be making whatever money I was making, but I wanted it to feel good. And so I shifted my position, and then I shifted my position again with a raise, and then I shifted my position again with a raise, every single time tweaking my life to feel more aligned to me.
Do you have any idea why that's the case? Why you finally made, because 100K, let's be honest, that's a lot of money. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of money, guys.
Absolutely.
But why do you think, and this could be with anything, but I've also heard, and I wish I could remember the sports player's name, who kind of gave a very similar story. He finally got, I think they won the playoffs, the championship. He got rings or two or three, so he's at the top of his game, and he's like, but I still don't feel happy. I still don't feel accomplished. It's almost like this is it. This is what it would feel like. So what do you think it is? Because I know there are a lot of people who feel that way. They get all of this money that they finally were going after, and it's like I still don't feel as successful as I thought I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, I think it's the balance, right? The harmony of life, right? I was really doing really well in my career, and I was doing really well, in my business. I had like finally got my business going and had regular clients and really pulling everything in, but I was going through the worst breakup of my life. So my world was unbalanced. There wasn't a harmony between like
Mm.
my home life is good, my career is good, and so I dived full into work. I dived full in to make the money and do the things and all of that, but like my heart was breaking, and so inside of like trying to balance my heartbreaking and feeling aligned and all of that, I was tweaking my career to really give more space for me to grieve my life and everything I thought it was going to be.
Mm.
And I needed that space. And I really believe that the truth of any big change and any big shift in your life is that you have to make room to grieve who you were in order to become the person you are becoming.
That
And
identity shift that you talked about earlier.
absolutely. And when you only check in one area and you only stay focused in one area, eventually you'll realize like everything you were going for in that area, that 100K, go, 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 Charcee, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. You get it. That didn't stop any of the other parts of your life that weren't
That's left behind.
being
Exactly.
being taken
Wow.
care of.
I never looked at it that way. I never looked at it that way. And that's interesting. And which is why I love how one of my other coaches being Lisa Nichols, she makes sure that we take assessment not of our life as a whole, but the different areas of our life, spiritually, professionally, business, finance, like all of those things mean something. Because you could be a 10 in one area in your physical health, but then you're a 2 spiritually, or you're a 3 financially. So
Absolutely.
you may be happy here, but not so happy here. So as a whole, you're really not happy, and you can enjoy the parts of your life that is a 10. You
Right.
can enjoy the all the parts of you that really made this 100K, because it's the space is being occupied with, I am just in so much pain right now anyway.
Right.
Um that's interesting. That is amazing. Because 100K is not a little bit of money. It's not
No.
a little bit of money.
No, especially when you come from nothing. Especially when you come from like when I said 50K was the most my parents made, they didn't make that the entire time. you know? So we didn't come from a lot. My dad, even his story, they made even less, and my mom even less. And so, like, really, they built it up to 50K. They must have made their parents extremely proud, right? So for to come from so little and build so much, I'm making more money than I ever thought that I would ever make in this lifetime, let alone any of the kids I grew up with, or, like, this wasn't the path for a lot of them, right?
Especially you making that on your own. Like no one helped you.
Right.
A lot, meaning no one gave you a handout. No one
Right.
gave you a part of that. You made that. You worked for it. You earned it. And so beyond just being successful, there's this accomplishment in life along the way that you feel because, man, it's like I could have made other decisions that gave me a different life, but I chose this one, and here I am.
Right.
Um, and you still don't feel successful. And
Yeah, and then no one to share it with.
and exactly,
Right? And,
exactly.
like, if my desire is that I have, like, a partner to share my life and world, and, like, I spend my money traveling. That's what I do. Like, everybody knows, like, I am on the road, I travel, I love traveling, I love seeing the world, I love going. Um, and it's great by myself. Like, I love myself. I love being a I love I'm my greatest company for sure. Like, we get along so well. But but it is always nice with, someone to share it with, and, like, to make that amount of money and be able to go buy a plane ticket and go anywhere or go do what I wanna do, and I save my money so I can take these, like, great trips and not have anyone to go with who is, like, my person. That was, like, the realization, like, "Okay, you did really well here, but you didn't pay attention to all of this." And,
Yeah, there
I was going through it. I was, like, allowing myself to feel and all of those things, but it was the grieving. It was, like, really grieving who who I am and who I want to become at at the at the or who I wanted to become, really, like the human that I wanted to be with this person, with this other person that I thought we were choosing life together, and I thought we were going to, move in together, and I thought we were gonna start a family and do the things that, like, are important to me. But then that world comes crashing down. So, the idea that I was gonna, like, have a home and a family in that home, like, that left. But I didn't grieve that. And then I bought my first house. Like, I bought my house in 2022, which was, like, this amazing accomplishment. But it also was, like, I never thought I was gonna own a house, right? Like, my mom didn't own a house, like, I never thought I was gonna own a house. So to then, like, own a house and buy my house on my own by myself with my income, and like, they were huge accomplishments, but I thought we were gonna do it. So that
Mhm.
that there was some grief involved in owning this house and being alone, right? And so I had to get really curious with the grief. Like, I just had to dive in into the places and spaces, like, what am I holding on to that actually is no longer mine? Like, what am I was grieving the life that never was going to happen. Right? I was grieving. A lot of my grief was future based. A lot of my grief was, like, what wasn't gonna happen, what I wasn't gonna get, what wasn't gonna. And so I had to really reorganize the way I was thinking about things and retrain myself to go, "No, no, no, no. The human's gone, the future's not." Like, all of
Mm.
that can still exist, right?
Mhm.
When
The
you get
human is
right.
gone, but the future is still very much present.
Yeah, and possible, right? But I had to get over the human. Right? I had not get over, but, like, really work through the loss of that
Mhm.
human in order to be a human, my own self, to be able to bring a new partner in that I would build this life with. Because you can't bring anybody in when someone's sitting in the capacity in which that person would sit, right? I hadn't let I hadn't released that space to even allow for something else new to come in,
Mm.
right?
And then
And
there's some people who throw away the human and the space,
yeah, absolutely.
whereas we can separate and disconnect the person filling that capacity and still keep that capacity and then say, you know what, I'm going to fill this with someone else that's probably even more fitting.
Right.
for that position, if you will.
Right, and you go
Wow.
back to who am I today? Like, what's fitting for me?
Mm,
Like, the human that I chose 5 years ago, I don't know that we'd be aligned today, right? They're not in my life, we don't speak to each other, and it's not nothing bad, like, I will always say there's love between us, but I don't know that they'd fit this lifestyle that I've now created when I spent 2 years really just figuring out who I am. What do I love? What do I love? What do I go to the grocery store and buy when I'm buying it for just me? Who am I without her? Who am I without him? Who am I without them? Who am I, when you have grown accustomed to a life and then that life something leaves, right? You have to figure out who you are without that thing. So who am I without her? When Fran died, I had to figure out who am I without her? Who do I be? Who am I becoming? What do I take from her existence that I push forward with? And what do I have to learn along the way? I took your word is gold, Charcee. Your word is gold. You have nothing else but your word. If you tell someone you're going to do something, do it, right? But inside of that lesson and moving in the world with that lesson, I also then had to learn that with new information, I make a new decision,
I love that.
right?
Love it. With new information, I make a new decision. I'm gonna
Right.
try that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great one. And right, like the new information that I got inside of my breakup was, like this isn't the relationship you get to keep anymore. So my default was to avoid it, was to let it just be whatever it is. I didn't really work. I didn't know what to do because I was heartbroken. So I dived into work. Hence, I hit the 100K. I hit the past the 100K. I changed my career. I became a leader in this company. I am running a successful coaching business. I have great, long lasting, wonderful clients who, I'm facilitating in front of retreats of, I'm doing all the things. I'm going, 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 and I'm not looking at my love life, right? I'm totally like, I'm gonna just be single. I got this, da 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 da. And now here I am. Now I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for that. Bring it on. I'm ready for love again, right? Who knew? You've known me for years, right? 2 years ago, I couldn't even imagine having this conversation, right? And so things do shift when you experience your life and you look at all of the parts. Because you can put things on a shelf and avoid them for a long time, but they're still on that shelf and they're still gonna be there. And so you have to kind of have the desire to get outrageously curious with all the parts of you and all the parts of your world and all the parts of your life. If you never look at your finances, you won't know if somebody stole your money, right? If you don't look at your bank accounts, you won't know that you got overdrafted, right? If you don't look at your career and whether or not it's aligned or whether or not it feels good for you or whether or not it's inside of your purpose, you won't actually do anything to change it.
So if you could encourage someone and give advice to someone who would like to experience success and fulfillment and accomplishment when they get to their goal, because that may not be their apex, but their goal, what would be your encouragement and advice to make sure that in order for you to truly enjoy and be able to bask in this fulfillment, you need to make sure dot dot dot. And the reason why I'm asking is because, so I checked, the sports player that I was talking about was Deion Sanders. He's a football player, and it was after he won the Super Bowl. Now come on, me on the outside looking in, if I'm a football player and I
That's
win the
the
Super Bowl,
Yeah,
I
that's the
mean,
goal. Your whole
that's
career
it.
is yeah, mhm.
But for him, it was, this can be it. This is what I'm supposed to feel like. There has to be more. Like you can't get any more than the Super Bowl in football. Like that's it.
Right, that
The
is the
only thing you
goal.
can do is win more of them and more of them. But for him, that wasn't happiness. For him, that wasn't success. For him, he still felt unaccomplished. It was just, So how would you advise, if you were talking to me as a coach, as my coach, how would you advise me to make sure that I am in a position where I can enjoy having won my first, second, or third Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think that I would honestly say, like, let's check in. Like, let's check in with yourself. Like, really, like, was that what you wanted in the first place? Right? Or did you go after a goal that wasn't actually aligned to what you wanted to feel like? Because from the outside, winning a Super Bowl is the most successful thing a football player could do, unless all they want to do is be a father. Then that's not the most successful thing that they,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
The most successful thing would be
Mm.
working on creating their child.
Say that again. So, feeling accomplished and successful as a football player, winning a Super Bowl only makes sense if that's all you want to do, versus if really all you want to do was be a father. And the Super Bowl and football was only a means to make sure that you can provide for your family as a
Correct.
father. Oh,
Correct.
uh,
Right? The check-in,
uh-huh.
it's the check-in, it's like really knowing, what do we want? What do we actually desire? What do our woods look like? How would we build our cabin? How would we create this life of desire that we actually want to live? And hold a career that we're already holding. You don't have to leave everything behind. You just have to make sure that everything you're holding is supporting where you're going. Be a football player. But if all you want to do is have a child, make sure that that becomes a priority while you're building your career. If you want to travel with a partner, don't just build your career and not fix yourself and heal yourself so that you can have space for a partner, right? Like, all things in harmony. And I will say that I don't think it's an easy task, right? I think it's a necessary one. I don't think it's easy because we are conditioned to do what we've always been doing, conditioned to. So it really does require slowing down. And one of the things that I do with my clients when we go on this journey is choose what you're going to eat for breakfast for 1 week. Like, you have to wake up every day and make a decision on what you actually want to eat. You have to check in with yourself. Like, what do I want to eat? And I just, I talk about this pretty frequently because it seems so simple. So simple. Like, yeah, I know what I'm going to eat, right? Don't eat what you always eat. Don't eat what's convenient. Don't eat what's there. Don't just
Mm.
grab a piece of toast because you have it. Like,
Who
but
says you have to have eggs in the morning? Why can't I
exactly,
have lobster? Why can't I have a shrimp
exactly,
boil, a seafood boil? Why can't I have
exactly,
oysters for breakfast when I wake up in the morning? Yes,
exactly. Right?
yes, that's the word.
Really check in. Really check in. And I say breakfast because it's like, the first thing that we do in the morning. It's like, and and for me, like, I started doing this and I was eating salads like 3 days, 4 days a week. Like, I really just had salad and a fried egg. And the amount that I felt nourished throughout the day shifted, right? It shifted, like, how good I felt and all of that, like, or if I didn't wanna eat, like, today I just don't feel like eating. Like, my body isn't hungry. And then honoring that and really checking in with your body, right? Really checking in with yourself. And I think that's the same, like, with my career and me shifting right now. When I was telling you, I really checked in. I took a month off and I was like, spend this time really deciding, like, is this the way that you want to continue to go? If I'm building my cabin, is this within it? If I'm in my woods, like, is this the route? Like, or am I off path? Have I veered? Right. And I spent a month checking in, asking a lot of rough questions, you know, knowing that, like, quitting your job means you don't have income from that. How is that going to impact the life that you live and your livelihood and everything that you want and all of the traveling that you love to do? And how do you know, what are you going to do? How are you going to push to put more clients in your company now that you're removing this and you have more space? Or what are you doing? I'm just like asking myself hard, hard questions. And I could have stayed. I could have stayed in that company. I could have stayed in that, you know, role. And what I found was every time I thought about staying, my body tensed up. So I was like, that's interesting, right? Check in. Okay. But when I thought about leaving, my body relaxed. Freedom. So I had to really pay attention. Like your body would tell you because we hold everything. Our nervous system, everything is held. The body does actually hold everything. And so if you pay attention enough, to yourself, to your body, to your mind, how you react, what you think, the way your thoughts are coming out, your perspective on things and all of that, you're going to find your answers because I say this all the time, which you've heard a million times, but your answers are in your actions. And when you take an action, you will find, right? Life experience will uncover things. And if you pay attention enough to the internal and how the internal is um, responding to what you're doing externally, you'll kind of find like your flow in life. And inside that flow is your purpose.
I think one of the things that Sean says a lot, one of my other coaches, even a very good friend of yours,
Yeah.
is that like a lot of the answers to your questions or the answers to your problems are on the inside. Like you said, they're in your actions, like they're on the inside. It may take somebody helping you pull that out, like a coach, for instance, but it's already there. And that's exactly what you're referring to. Like purpose is not an external thing. It's very much internal. Like we were born with it. Uncovering it and trying to discover and figure out where it is it's internal to external. And Charcee, I'm so like me and you can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Like, our coaching sessions are supposed to be an hour, and 2 hours later, her and I are still there.
Yeah.
Because she brings out of me so much of what's inside of me that I love it. I love being taught. I love being pushed. I love being agitated so that I can grow. And this is one of the reasons why I appreciate you. And earlier you mentioned that, along your journey, one of the things that was big for you was having a mentor or having mentors. What is one piece of advice that a mentor gave you that you took, and how did you apply it?
There's this woman, her name's Mary Wickline. She's no longer, she passed away, but she was my mentor for probably like 10 years. And I was, so she's a professor, and I was her assistant at the time. And students would come to me for feedback on their work because it was photography. That was my major in college. So they would come back to me for feedback on their work. And she said, if you give them the answer, they're never going to learn. So ask them the question that they ask you in return.
And yes, you ask question after question after question. If you ever coach with Charcee, it's going to be the questions. Yes. If you ever give them the answer, they will never learn.
Right. And so I do believe that like we already know what we want. Someone just has to give us permission to, and sometimes it's ourselves that gives us permission and sometimes it's someone else. But really like if I ask everyone who's listening today, if I ask you like really just wake up tomorrow and ask yourself like what do I want to eat for breakfast? And then allow yourself to have that thing, you're going to look at breakfast differently. But if I wake up tomorrow and I say ask yourself if you really love the direction your life is going. And if you realize that you don't, you have all of the permission to make a shift. Then you're going to look at your life differently.
I know she doesn't want me to do this. I'm going to do it. She doesn't have anything to promote. She doesn't have anything that she wants to push. Well, I'm going to push her, ladies and gentlemen. If you ever are interested in being pushed, in being uh, taught, or just having someone in your corner as a coach, I encourage you greatly to give my coach Charcee here a try. She will help you change your life. Charcee is somebody want to work with you
Yes.
in the aspect of coach to coachee. What's the best way to find you, Tell us all that good stuff.
Well, I'm revamping my website because I'm revamping my world, which is, good. But you can email me at hello at the house and the woods. And I check my email myself and I keep my business small. So it's all me, but I will get back to you.
You won't be disappointed. I promise you. We've been coaching for a few years now, and I'm here on this podcast right now, partly because of the way that she is pushed and the questions that she asks over and over and over again. And because of her best advice to me, which was, you're the creator of your creation, so go after it. And that's what I've done. So, Charcee, before we go, thank you so very much. It has
My
been a pleasure listening to you. It's been a pleasure learning more about your journey and the lessons along the way as you've been pursuing your purpose, living up your purpose, and also helping others find theirs. I'm sure the listeners are nudged with the new information that they can now make new and better decisions. So
Yes.
thank you. So I'm sure they want to know, because I want to know. So we're going to ask, what's your favorite thing for breakfast?
My favorite thing for breakfast is probably egg and salad.
Egg and salad. Egg and salad.
Yeah, it's
So if you
probably
didn't make it yourself and you went to a restaurant, what would you choose? What's your favorite restaurant?
So if I go out to a restaurant, I I tend to order like eggs, bacon, and pancake. And it's a thing, it's my father, right? Like my father, when we go out, it's always eggs, bacon, and pancakes. So when I go out, I even call him no matter where I am in the world, and I go, "I ordered a pancake for you." Or I'll send him a picture like, "I ordered a pancake for you." It's like our little thing. I might only take a few bites of it. I might not eat it. I'm very savory in the morning. Like I love savory omelets and eggs but I will order the pancake and I will bite it just because that's my connection to my father.
Nice. Eggs and salad. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you wake up this week, when you wake up tomorrow, when you wake up the day after next week, remember to ask yourself, what do I want for breakfast? And whatever comes to mind, whatever you want, make sure you go after it. Thank you so much. We just finished another great episode on Purpose Finder podcast with a beautiful soul, Charcee Starks. Don't forget to follow us here on Patreon. And until next time, see you soon. Bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. I hope today's conversation lit a fire within you, because purpose isn't just something you chase. It is something you live every single day. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people on their journey to purpose. Let's continue the journey together. Join the Purpose Finder community on Facebook for exclusive insights, tools, and a tribe of purpose-driven people just like you. And remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Your purpose isn't far off. It's already within you. It's time for you to uncover it and live it boldly. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep walking in your purpose.